A championship which now heads to Watkins Glen, a circuit with a car that looks like a boot and a track which has a layout of the classic boot. It is Togo Hosada who is currently on top of the standings, but there is a plethora of drivers who could make their statements to chase on back down, and all of them come from Club Iberia. The chance comes now to put your statement win on the board, and it comes here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world here for coverage of the Grand Prix Legends, the Lotus 49 series. My name is Jake Sperry. Alongside me in the booth today is a driver no stranger to every corner of this Watkins Glen circuit, that being Joey Atterbury, with Eddie Smith on the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But let's take a little showcase down into what makes this circuit legendary in the United States. A track which has hosted every single style of racing and also the resting place of one legendary Francois Sever. Let's take a look at our GSRC track guide to see the street circuit, or the road circuit, I should say, that has the street circuit vibe.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time.
.3 miles of what makes this track fantastic, and it is a high-speed thoroughfare that you certainly drive yourself through. Joey, turns 2, 3, and 4 are the most dangerous corners in iRacing history. Every time you see a not top 10 on iRacing, there is a wreck there.
It usually is because it is so fast, blind, and the guardrails are on both sides. But we are racing a classic version of Watkins Glen here. 11 turns, 3.4 miles in length. You notice that back straightaway, no bus stop there. So they are going to be hauling the mail into the outer loop. We are using the boot, so the track falls off quite a bit in elevation down the chute, or what I call is the laces of the boot. And then through that entire boot section, quite a few ups and downs, some cambers on the road, and also over the crest to join back into the normal part of the racetrack. I think one thing's for sure, Jake, you mentioned it. We got to be careful up the S's. I think the story of the race, be careful of the guardrails today.
Yeah, the guardrails are going to be huge in terms of what makes this circuit difficult, especially in Lotus 49's open wheel, late 60s, mid 60s even, you should say, in terms of design. It's going to be very much a case of you breathe in the wrong way, this car is going to be broken. Let's take a talk, though, with the championship standings. We said at the top of the show, Togo Hosada is up at the top, 278 points, but you could say anybody first through fourth has a legitimate shot of taking the title away. Xavier Sanchez, Heike360 ES on Twitch, is in second, leading the Iberian charge with Jorge Nieva in third, and Marco Antonio Lopez in 4th position. Gary Ho is having a fantastic season. He's up in 5th ahead of David Rossi in 6th position, just 3 points splitting them. With Glenn Becker and Neil Kemp 7th and 8th, they're both also trying to jump up towards that 5th place. Jason Clapper finds himself in 9th. And Benjamin Shoko is slightly down the championship order at the moment. He's in 10th position, but expect him to make some places later on in this season. But there are 2 types of championship out there, Joey, and this one, F2, is for those with a little bit less iRating.
You called it. Same cars, just a different iRating status out here. And right now, Steve Morris, he continues the charge, 25 points ahead of Bjorn Ackerman. Those two, they're kind of escaping a little bit, but then it really starts to tighten up. We've got 4 drivers here within 12 points. That's Jonathan Jordan, Andrew Eng, Kurt Clapper, and Jan Steffen. So watch out for those drivers. And then it's just another quick 12 points back to another battle of Derek Matthews and Tomas Tuba that are tied there. So I have a feeling that we've only got a handful of rounds left. This F2 championship is coming into form just when we need it.
And of course, they do have 2 drop rounds over the course of the season to count. Cup of Nations, though, with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the back pocket of Spain at this point. They are on top by 44 points over Japan, and the work that's been done by Togo Hesada this season. The United States find themselves in the Battle of the United Kingdom just behind in 4th position. Australia then leads Germany 5th and 6th, with Singapore in 7th place with the work of Sebastian Tixier, with Canada 8th, the Netherlands 9th, Slovakia just 2 points back there of the Netherlands, and within 10 points of Canada. The race for 8th is certainly a very interesting one to keep in the back of the mind. But as this is an iRacing official race that they race through the entirety of the season, qualifying is currently underway as things stand. 8 minutes and 2 laps to set a representative qualifying time. And those first laps are looking like they are about to go through. Nacho Gaspar is currently making that progress. Number 1 in the field indicates he's got the highest iRating here of anybody, rushing through the final 2 corners. Jorge Nieva currently with the fastest lap, a 45.3 as the opening attempts moving forward. That's immediately eclipsed by Togo Hesada. But as we see Nacho Gaspar over the line, it's a 145.3 from the number 1. And that's good enough, at least on that opening lap, Joey, to go 3rd fastest.
Togo Hesada, the familiar name, jumping to the top of the board, but I think the one that really stands out right now, P2, Ove Trengrade, a regular name here, but usually kind of qualifying more in the top 5. If he's on the front row, watch out.
Yeah, you can see the dip there from the 5 of Trengrade ducking down the hill. And this is probably the best opportunity, Joey, to talk about this race, what it is, how long they've got to go through, what is an incredibly difficult showcase, because they do have those 19 laps to go through, but it's a break-it-you-bought-it situation. They have no fast repairs available to them if they find themselves in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and I believe it is a 17X for a drive-through and then 25X for that disqualification. Here it is, and you mentioned the no spare car, so if you pick up any damage on the racetrack, you're going to have to live with it or come down pit road to get that fixed, of course, at a time penalty, because the crew has to hop over the wall, get those wrenches out, and get your car squared up again.
Absolutely have to, and you know you have to be on the limits to go through. Here is Mick Claridge out there, son bike at this moment in time. Always make sure that he gives as much support. His GoFundMe is absolutely fantastic to get him back on the bike in terms of where is Mick and his series there, as he looks like he has a few troubles there and disappears, so he's not going to improve. Nieva went fastest for a moment, but Togo Hesada again moves up then, 144, 666, 665 on the iRacing timing, finds himself up through. Nacho Gaspar over the line, goes 4th fastest only, so we're seeing the back end of the lap times now starting to bring themselves in, and drivers are now looking around at each other and going, well, what can we find? The world of Kinducci, Robert Plumley, currently 23rd at the moment. Does that improve his time as he jumps up the order? It does, but only 2 places in 21st. I'm looking down the timing screens. I'm seeing Xavier Sanchez way down right now. He's down in 10th, the number 7.
It is a little bit further down than we're expecting to see Sanchez, so I'm curious, is that going to equate to his race pace as well, or are we going to see the Xavier Sanchez charge up through the field like we know he's capable of? But I think with about a minute and a half remaining here, the other names that I'm seeing, I see Seb Tixier didn't put down a time yet. That's another big one that's going to be starting at the back.
Yeah, this is his alternate account, though, so I think he's trying to do a last-to-first challenge. Carl Ridley is not on a qualifying lap at the moment, but Christo Chinmay is in the number 36 car, looking to try and challenge on forward at this point. So Chinmay from Club Asia will make a run towards the line. It's a 48.3. It's good enough for the 13th row of the grid, as Johnny Bell just behind will also look to improve on times and try and find a position from Pennsylvania. 48.8 there. It's good enough then to move up into 28th position then with that lap time. You've also got the likes of Chris Barnes, who is not on a lap, and I think that is everybody done then in terms of their qualifying effort. So we will have the opportunity when the session ticks over to head over to our starting grid, but Barnes will be one of the last drivers looking to get that practice, Joey.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing right now. You can do laps all the way until that timer runs out. However, not all of them count. We mentioned it's only 2 laps that actually count towards qualifying here in this session. So all Chris is doing right now, just getting a little seat time, getting a little extra practice.
And that practice is going to be key. Qualifying then is officially in the books. Let's take a look at our starting grid. And it is the number 4, Togo Hosada, who is on the pole position overall, with Jorge Nieva alongside for company. Ove Trengerade and Nacho Gaspar will hold row 2 as Mick Claridge starts 5th. And John Olsen is in 6th position. The other Olsen, with a different spelling, a more European spelling, Laut, will start from 7th, with Kyle Ridley in 8th position. Gary Ho goes from 9th, and a lot of work to do for Xavier Sanchez. He will go from 10th place.
Here in 11th, we have Neil Kemp and Jeff Saunders in 12th. Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado, 13th. David Rossi, 14th. Matthew Maudsley in 15th position. Steve Morris back there, our F2 points leader, in 16th. Bjorn Ackerman hot on his heels in 17th. Gary Quellen, 18th. JDS, 19th. And Cam Porter with a top 20 qualifying result.
Surprised to see Jack David Spickett down the order. Michael Grissinger and Robert Plumley will house row 11. Jan Stefan and Emerson Godin in 23rd and 24th. Derek Matthews follows Christo Chinmay, with Terry Tromashauser in 27th and Johnny Bell 28th. Markel Mendoza and Jonathan Jordan make up the top 30.
31st, we have Chris Barnes, then Jason Clapper, traditionally starting at the back with Kurt Clapper. Shady Ahmad, Seb Tixier also starting at the back. Isan Jin, another one of those fast ones. Watch out for him. Mats Linden, Oscar Plata, and Connor Babel, your 39 cars.
Yep, and those drivers down at the end who didn't set a time, so 32nd on back, are all rated by iRacing. That's how they determine how they line up on the back rows of the grid. But 39 drivers up through the S's is normally a recipe for disaster here at Watkins Glen. It's the road course that feels like a street course here in upstate New York. And this is a track which time and again has been a difference maker over the course of the season. Track temperatures are hot, 47 degrees centigrade. It's going to be a lot hotter in Fahrenheit, but let's get ourselves ready. 117 Fahrenheit, green flag in the air, and let's get ourselves underway. Asada does not get the best start off of the line, and that's going to mean immediately flying by. It's Jorge Nieva moving up through the 90 to get the move done and move up into the race lead. Claridge up to 3rd, Gaspar in 4th, John Olsen 5th position, but they all need a little bit of who's who as they go up through the S's section. Pretty well behaved, single file for the most part.
This is the tense moment up through the S's on the first lap, but all of these open wheel machines seem to navigate it. Great respect here in the vintage racing community.
Oh, absolutely. The respect is given, but here comes Togo once again. Back for the inside. He's going to fight Nieva for it. Down the hill, out of the carousel towards the chute corner, and it's side by side, too wide, too deep. Through on the inside goes Nieva. Oh, and off in the wall in the background. Big hit there that goes through. I think that's the number 1, and Nacho Gaspar.
Oh, yeah, so unfortunate for Gaspar. He's been one of our recent newcomers, and he's been at the front of the field. He was battling with Mick Claridge. Mick also went off, almost hit the wall, but Nacho unfortunately got there.
Not the story that number one needed as he exits at the toe of the boot. But now up the hill, they start to drive, and now through the heel of the boot, Jorge Nieva at the front, Hisada second, John Olsen, what a start he's had. Started sixth on the grid, he's immediately got himself up into third. It's Hervé Trangrade fourth, it's Mick Claridge currently in fifth position, and you need to have a little bit of understanding of where you need to make the passes on this circuit and where to time the runs. 19 laps is a sprint in terms of lap distance, but you have to break it up into thirds here today, Joey, to get the most out of the race.
Well, you mentioned, you got to time your passes here, Watkins Glen, with a big late move. Here's a pass from John Olsen trying to get around Togo Hisada. I mean, you can't get much more late on the brakes than that, but what we're going to see here, Togo Hisada, he's going to dip into the draft. I think this is a smart move. Maybe give up the position in turn one, use the slipstream here down this big back straightaway.
But that lunge has opened the gap up to 1.3 to Jorge Nieva, so you can't afford on a track that is so draft dependent like it is today to allow someone like Nieva the opportunity to break at the front of the field. Side by side a bit behind, Laust Olsen and Kyle Ridley. That's Laust making the move then through at the carousel corner and making that happen. And I always find it funny, Joey, when you have a corner named the carousel, it's the most American thing. It basically means any corner that goes beyond a radius of 180 degrees or something to that ilk. And it was so funny to say, for example, let's say the Sachs curve is a carousel.
I mean, hey, a carousel is round. These curves are round out here, and the further you go around it, sometimes it just reminds you of that stuff.
It does, and I tell you what, it's some very innovative naming convention that you have here, and it's not often that you find that all American circuits have track named. Often you find 17A or 23B as a corner. This is one of those circuits. Ooh, get yourself slider on Laust Olsen. He is absolutely banging the most as he can out of the Colin Chapman design Lotus 49, which is built with one thing and one thing in mind, Joey, and that one thing is be quick and add lightness.
Yes, these cars, look, there is nothing to them that you don't need. As skinny, as narrow as possible, and trust me, I think if you looked in it in terms of safety features in comparison today, a lot of people would open their jaw and just have it on the floor, like, oh my gosh, you actually raced these things?
Yes, this is very much a light car, and you can see there on the back the Ford naming on there on the most famous engine in racing history, the DFV Cosworth.
And it's an amazing engine that stayed in racing for quite some time, ahead of its time, really.
Ahead of its time, part of its time, and definitely stood the test of time on top of that to boot. Down through the carousel then here on lap 3. On the back of those two is Xavier Sanchez, number 7, up 2 spots in the race. Bye-bye. Into the wall goes Kyle Ridley.
So unfortunate for Kyle Ridley, and now he's pretty much stuck in there. I'm familiar with that part of the wall myself, and you're going to have to back it all the way up. Look at this, all the way down, 25th, 26th, still losing positions.
But crucially doesn't have the black and orange mechanical flag, so does not have to come down into the pits for mandatory repairs. GSRC replay then, down the hill. This is how you get it wrong. Too much of the rear, the front, or the rear overtakes the front and backs it into the wall, engine first. Never what you want to see, but you're always fighting with the brakes in a car like this.
Yeah, always, and I think he actually runs wide again here, coming back out onto the track, but just unfortunate for Kyle Ridley, and I'm seeing, I think, problems with Mick Claridge on the racetrack. He just gave up a spot, maybe had a slowdown at some point, maybe coming up out of the heel of the boot. That's a common area if you run wide. That's possible.
No, he grabbed grass, actually, into the penultimate corner. He's very fortunate that this is the brand new iRacing update to Watkins Glen, and he had runoff there, because in the old patch that they had there, how the track used to be, Joey, that's a gravel track.
Yes, but it has been changed, saved by the pavers out there, and that's kind of, you were mentioning our American style of circuits. That's a European take on that.
Absolutely. Give yourself a little bit more room to recover the mistake instead of straight into the gravel and find yourself flipping over and digging in. Often you find that can be very troublesome in terms of how that goes through. So Claridge back into fifth, loses out the position to the Norwegian, Hervé Trengaret, who is one of the legends of this series. And in fact, anything classic on iRacing, he is quick in every car you put him in.
Absolutely, and that's why I was mentioning him in qualifying. If this guy is at the front of the field, he's going to do nothing but get faster as the race goes on. I know that here in the Lotus 49s, he doesn't get to put in as much practice time, so really, the beginning of the race, he's got his notepad out, taking notes. By the end, he is a master.
He is a master, and there you can see second, third, fourth, and fifth giving chase, being led by John Olsen up the hill at the off-camber exit to the boot. Then at turn 9, heading to 10 and 11 to end the lap outright, trying to keep Jorge Nieva in check at 1.1 seconds away from the race lead as it stands. I want to go back to 12th place for a moment, because that's where your F2 leader is at the moment, Stay Maurice. But look at the group that he almost had behind. Is a huge wreck. Seb Tixier's involved.
Oh, no. This is the second time Seb Tixier has been involved in a wreck, and see exactly what happens. You see the heavy damage. Oh, this was a big contact with another car. Maybe Gary Quellen involved with this one, Jake.
Oh, you can see that there. Goes for a roller coaster ride. Lucky it doesn't tip over here on the replay. Another look. So they're too wide. They're always looking for room, and it is a clattering of wheels, a malfunction at the junction. And I'm not sure the 30 was sighted there for Gary Quellen as he turned in.
No, I don't think so, especially with the 30 lower on the racetrack. A little bit unfortunate there. I think just miscommunication, really.
Yeah, and I think we'll take one more look at it here. So he's moving over to the right. Oh, the car pitches right under brakes as well. So that might be a case where Quellen might have just locked up the rear slightly.
Well, and not only that, but we got to remember, if there's any sort of side-to-side contact with these cars, they are open wheels. So they snag, they tumble. It is not a good situation.
Tixier will continue on in this race, but does so at a long way down in the field and leads now another heavy group of drivers into the chute section. Also on board, though, with the number 4, Togo Hesada, in what is the most beautiful camera angle, the back of the shoulder angle that shows all of the work you got to do in this car. Not one take to keep the torque in check, but 2, there's a reason why they've got the chunkiest tyres in the world. It's like driving on 4 Oreos.
Yes, and, you know, if we were talking about tires and Joe Peak knew, he would be rolling his eyes right now, because I love bringing them up. These are some really old tires. They do not have the grip properties that the new stuff have. They drive completely different.
They do, and this is very much a car that you have to drive, Joey, on feel rather than on driver aid, for example. They didn't have driver aids back then.
No, and this is another great shot. One of the things that I love about this car, Jake, is you actually have suspension movement. Here you get to see the arms, the shocks, the springs actually move, and here we go. Togo Hesada with a nice run. He's going to pull out alongside John Olsen going into the outer loop or the carousel. John Olsen hangs tough on the outside, but Togo trying to get the pass done.
Togo is on the wrong side of the road to make this, but I think he's going to be clear as he dives through. Mick Claridge in the background also has a lunge on Hervé Trengaret, trying to take advantage of the group accordioning up as they head down towards the toe of the boot. Hervé lifts out of it, and Mick Claridge gets his place back. But as they start to fight amongst themselves, it's very much a case of Jorge Nieva now starting to pull away. And I was watching some sport this morning, Joey. I was watching the cycling, the Juniors Championship for the World Championships in Glasgow. And it's very much exactly the same what happened there between the French and the Great British riders in that race. It's happening exactly here with Jorge Nieva at the front.
And I think Togo Hesada realized exactly what you're talking about. I don't think he was too keen on having John Olsen pass him earlier and then seeing Nieva start to run away now. So I think lap 6 coming up to lap 7 here, we're not even halfway. But Togo said, you know what, if I want to win this, I got to get around Olsen. I got to go chase down our leader.
Yeah, it's a case of you have got to chase that down. You have to gain as many places as you can, and you have to do so in a really, really quick moment. We've got a number of drivers down on the pitch. It looks like Chris Barnes has been involved in an incident in this race. So to Mats Linden, there is the face of Laust Olsen, ever calm as he looks to try and chase on forward and keep contact with Hervé Trengrade. He's lost ground to the tune of about 3.5 seconds in this field, and he'll look behind. He knows Xavier Sanchez there. He has a very determined look in the mirror to say, where are you? I think I've got enough room to say I'm safe. And look at that, not even going to check when he turns in. He knows he's safe thanks to the black box relative he's got.
Not only that, Laust has raced enough in this series that he knows the competitors, he knows the respect that's given, and if there's not a car that's in a passing threat, there's no need to worry about him because he knows they're not going to make some crazy lunge on him. That's the type of racing we get here in this series.
Yeah, and Heike is the sort of driver, Heike 360 ES, Xavier Sanchez interchangeable, is one of those drivers who is very consistent in terms of how he goes out and how he races. He often finds the consistent points, and it's those consistent points that puts him P2 in the championship. He's gained 3 places today and now equals his iRacing number in this field. Number 7 is P7, and for anyone who starts in iRacing, Joey, beat your number. That's the first goal.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting system that if you're unfamiliar with it, basically when you log into these races, you have an I rating, basically a skill level, if you will, and the higher your skill level, the higher your I rating, the better your number plate. Number 1 being the best. So if you see number 7 here, this is the 7th ranked driver in this lobby.
Yeah, and doing really well. I'll tell you what, Togo Hesada has absolutely checked out from John Olsen now. That gap is up over a second, and it's because Mick Claridge is getting involved here around the outside of turn 3 to get it done, but Hervé's going to get the monster run here as they go on up the hill. Has to check it slightly, but it's going to need that slipstream and that toe. Is Mick going to defend it? Yes. Which way are you going to go to make that move? Hervé might force it 3 wide. He lifts out of it, though, and looks to try and take advantage on the inside into the carousel, and he's not going to find it. The blinking continues in front from Mick, but John Olsen has to give that up. Hervé Trengrade through, but Hesada is latching onto the back of Jorge Niever at the front.
He is starting to close that down, but a little unfortunate for this driver right here. Driver of the number 3 car, John Olsen. He was up in that 2nd place position not but a couple laps ago. Unfortunately, once Togo Hesada got by him, it seemed to open the floodgates for the rest.
Oh, yes, it does. And we have seen that time and again, how the floodgates open and there's chances. But it looks like Jeff Saunders is out of the race from 9th.
Oh, problems with one of our top 10 runners. I didn't quite catch what was going on there, but with 39 cars, I'm actually pretty impressed, Jake.
Oh, he's on his own.
33 cars still on the lead lap and running.
Yeah, so 33 drivers on the lead lap. Jeff Saunders is now not one of them, because look at this. It's just the smallest mistake. Big rear tyre into the wall. Bang. That is it. Straight down, noses the car, and Jeff Saunders' great run in the number 18 is over in an instant.
Just a small mistake like you were mentioning. I think I saw that back tire on the grass. Tell you what, 3 on the pavement, 1 on the grass. It's a bit like trying to walk on stilts.
It is a little bit. You find that you get one property that's slightly different from the other, and then that's it. Goodbye. Day donezo. That's the way it goes. Back up the hill, though. Lap 9 of 19. Where has this race gone? We're already hitting the halfway stage of this one with Jorge Niever leading and Togo Hesada in 2nd. Hervé, oh, big kick up over the brow there for Mick Claridge on the outside. He's got to be careful about that. This track definitely does have its own quirks and pitches as it goes down through, and that was one of them there. The big high brow, almost like an oval banking, descending into that section.
Well, and it's interesting because here at Watkins Glen, the bus stop has become the primary track, so you're right. When you run the straight through back straightaway, it's almost like you're diving down off of a concrete change into another racetrack. It has that sort of property.
It does, and it also makes the braking zone very difficult as well with a car like this, which certainly does have issues as you go through on a circuit like this because of the brake fade.
And you're talking about incredibly high top speeds. You're talking about corners that are packed in tight to one another. So I think not only the brake fade, but the transmission. Remember, these old cars, they still use the clutch. They still use an H-pattern gear shift. And oh my goodness, Mick Claridge laying down some treads here in Watkins Glen.
He didn't hang 5, he didn't hang 10. Joey, that was a full 15.
Oh man, it was awesome. You were mentioning how much the cars move around and how much you have to drive them. Well, Mick Claridge putting it on full display.
Absolutely is. And now he's going to have to be very concerned with Hervé Trengrade and how much he's going to attack, needing all of the grip possible here, through the right, through the left, and up through the right of turn 4 to end the S's as you go through. This is the sort of car that was mid-60s, was the era of Graham Hill and Jim Clark, these sorts of drivers who are revered and honestly underrated in terms of how much talent they had.
I think people try to compare, drivers of different generations, and the view that I always had is that you could take anyone from any generation, plop them in a different, and as soon as they get used to it, they will be just as good. So I agree with you. I think that you can take any one of these historic vintage drivers and consider them one of the best in the world ever.
I think you can as well, and I think that's key. On the back then of Jorge Nieva, number 9, who leads this race. It's 3rd v 1st in the championship. Togo Hesada is now looking for a really good run. He's looking to go back-to-back after his victory last time out at Long Beach, where Jorge Nieva and Xavier Sanchez put their first 0 points of the season on the board. Nieva has 1 championship victory to his name this season. He took the opener at Monza, but he's looking for something very similar on a very similar property circuit like this one at Watkins Glen. A lot of similarities to be brought out with Nieva's pace here and the pace he had at the start of the season.
And I'm just analyzing the lines between these two lead drivers here. I'm noticing Togo Hesada taking advantage of the track a little bit more. And by what I mean by that is he's using the entry, he's using the exit, he's using the apex curbs a little bit more. That's allowing him to be and carry a little bit more speed than our leader, but you got to be careful of taking too much.
Track will bite back if you're being a little bit too aggressive, and Togo Hesada is riding that line like a tightrope at this point. Behind for 3rd, Mick Claridge doesn't get a good run, and that's going to be Hervé Trengrade now trying to work the road hard traveled, the high road, the road along the outside to get it done here at the carousel. He needs to put the power down. He might be able to do that a little bit earlier, but Mick on the inside is a master of defense, and he holds station with that, but he gets a big wiggle through the corner, and all that work, all that mastery is undone.
Yeah, unfortunately for Mick, and I know that when he gets racing, I've seen him charge into these brake zones a little bit too deep, and he got caught out on lap 1. Unfortunately, lap 11 seems to catch him out again.
It does, and you
often
find that there's a couple places where it goes wrong. There's a couple places where you can just dive in the wrong way, and that's where Mick Claridge finds himself in the wrong position. He's just got to be alert to that he doesn't fall into that again. John Olsen, by the way, still in that group, often gets not talked about when it comes to these races because he has this uncanny ability to assimilate into a group. He's always in a group, he's always racing hard, but he's always the quiet one. He's never making a statement.
Well, I think that this is another good opportunity for John here because remember, he was up in 2nd, chasing down the lead, but unfortunately Togo got by him, fell back a little, but you're right. He stayed quiet. He didn't lose touch with this pack. He's still very much in the fight for the podium.
He is, and the fight for the lead is also on as well at a gap of 0.3 in a second. If Togo can pogo up to the front of the field, then he will be someone who is incredibly happy. That group, look how much they're attacking up through the hill as they try and charge through. All the way to the inside goes Jorge Nieva. He's been doing that every single lap to try and shift away some toe and some braking. He'll compromise his initial entry through the corner, but he knows that he's not going to lose out on the exit due to the nature. If he can slow it down and get down to the same speed that Togo Hesada would naturally do from the outside to in, that's okay. He can attack off the exit, no worries.
You're right. It's because the radius of that corner is so long, almost like a carousel.
almost like that corner is named Carousel, and it very much is. But at the toe of the boot, big kick of tail as he tries to climb up the hill over to the plateau at the heel of the boot, driving along the sole. Who is going to find their best step as they go through this section? No chances yet for Togo Hesada. He's going to wait for the ultimate best opportunity. He's not someone who's going to risk his race willy-nilly. He's been in this position far too many times to do that.
I agree, but look at this pressure from Togo Hesada. He is certainly mounting a charge. Remember, it was lap 7 that he got into second place. It only took him a handful of laps to hunt down the leader. How many is it going to take for him to get by?
Well, he's closed in by about 3/4 of a tenth of a second on that lap, and that might give him the opportunity now to attack up over the hill at 2, 3, and 4. Nieva needs to worry as they pass the 90 through the old start-finish line here with a massive curve on the outside. They now crest up through the S's, the right, the left, and now the right again here with lap 13 of 19. They've got laps 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 to go. So they've got 7 laps left as Togo Hesada at 6.5 goes to the outside trying to make it happen, but he's earlier on the brakes, which means that Nieva can pinch it on the apex and effectively block the pass.
Yeah, but look at this. Togo trying to squeeze his nose down to the inside. He's making a look, and sometimes that's all you need to do is put your car in the mirror, make your competitor glance over, get off the rhythm. But look at this. Now he's going to look down the inside again. He's just trying to weave back and forth, show the car wherever he can when he's close enough.
He is dancing out there, and Laust Olsen's out of the race.
We remember we were covering him back up in the 6th place position or so. Unfortunate for Laust.
Yeah, he's down. It was down to 7th at the time. I think he's just overcooked it into your corner, Joey, to shoot.
Oh man, my corner. Well, we're gonna get a look here. Laust Olsen going into the laces of the boot. And yeah, you called it, just too much entry speed. Really couldn't get the car slowed down and turned. And
Gary Ho's got a headache.
That needs a neck brace.
It needs more than a neck brace. I'll tell you what, if we could get an onboard from Gary Ho in terms of his position, in terms of seeing that accident, he really had nowhere to go in terms of how he was supposed to drive through. The good news is that he's not going to have anything in terms of the troubles, in terms of his car being damaged, because he took the brunt of the force through his helmet, and it's not any old helmet. It's not like the Arai or Bell helmets you have now. It's very much a different style. It's the old school helmet. So here we go. Tips it into the corner. Laust goes straight on. And at this point, duck.
I mean, that's a 1,500-pound tube being thrown at your head at that point.
Oh, I tell you what, you don't want 1,500 pounds over at the top of your head. That's the last thing that you want. First and second, still where they are at the moment. Look, though, at that group. Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Big wiggle there from Hervé Trengarade. Holds onto it. Mick Clouch goes through. Suddenly, Xavier Sanchez finds himself in that group, and he could still snipe a podium.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Xavier Sanchez just showed up on the scene all of a sudden. I'm looking at his lap times. He's currently the fastest car on the racetrack.
Yeah, he certainly took a few laps to get himself up to speed, but once he's got himself in the rhythm, there is nobody right now that can beat Sanchez. His last lap was a 45.2. That was half a second quicker than the leaders over that last lap. And with John Olsen in third, the gatekeeper to the podium, well, someone's going to have to try and make a pass on him, and they're all going to want to be there. There's one driver in front who's going to catch a bouquet of a podium, and 3 very unlucky bridesmaids.
Well, and we were talking about Togo Hesada needing to go chase down the leader, but look at how much this gap has opened up now. 4 seconds from second to third place. So as these continue to scrap out, they're just continuing to lose time. And Xavier Sanchez says, thank you very much. It's helping me catch you.
Yeah, but he's got to take these drivers one at a time. He's not going to have to try and effectively have his cake and eat it and pass all of them at once. He doesn't have to, but he's got to get right up to Hervé Trengarade first if he wants to make that a reality. Up through the S's once again here on lap 15 with 5 laps to go here at Watkins Glen. when they know that on the horizon 1 week from today, they'll be heading over to Suzuka, which will be home territory for Togo Hosada, and he's certainly sensing it right now as he wants to try and make the move on the Spaniard, Jorge Nieva. Not happening at the moment down through the chute. He's trying to use different lines to unsettle Nieva in the mirrors.
I love what I'm seeing out of the driver of the number 4. Remember, he's got the championship in mind as well, but Togo Hosada, he comes out here, he wins races, and here we go. This might be an opportunity. No, he loses a little bit with the gear shift coming up the hill. I thought he had a tremendous drive out of the corner, but what I was going to mention, Togo, a very, very young driver. What I'm seeing is a lot of maturity, a lot of patience on the track.
Yeah, he is a patient driver. He is a driver who waits for his opportunity. And you consider as well what time it is over in Japan. He's having to race late into the night to really make these races.
Yes, you know, I didn't even think about that either. Got to be on top of your game, not even during normal operating hours, if you want to call it.
Yeah, he is a midnight runner at this moment in time with 4 laps to go. Has he got the time? But they are starting to hit something dreaded, lap traffic.
Well, and when you put 39 of these cars on the track, you're going to run into lap traffic. Honestly, I'm surprised that it took us this long to get to them.
Yeah, and I tell you what, that goes to the testament of the driving field today, that lap traffic hasn't really been too much of a factor. Nieva absolutely fangs it past Chris Barnes, who slows down to let those drivers through. Togo Hosada, again over on that outside line. He's got to try something different. He's got to choose the moment to attack off the exit of these corners. He knows how weak Nieva's going to be off the exit. I think the chute is going to be the place he's going to have to try and get it done.
I think anywhere in this boot section, he's a little bit faster than Jorge in front of him. So yeah, I agree with you, Jake. I think if it's not coming down the chute into the boot, it's going to happen somewhere in this section.
And a pass behind for 5th position. Xavier Sanchez dispatches of the Norwegian. Hervé Trengren, he'll have the blinking Mick Claridge to try and get through next. That will be his next challenge in terms of getting through. This has been a brilliant recovery drive from Xavier Sanchez, who has driven out of his skin to get to this position.
Absolutely, and I think that he's got Mick Claridge lined up as well as John Olsen. You see Mick putting the pressure on John up there, so I think the battle is far from over and really fast. I just want to mention a couple drivers with a few laps left here. Jason Clapper up 17 positions from starting at the back. And then the other big one that I was noticing, Jake, the one that we noticed in qualifying, JDS. He's moved himself up inside the top 10.
He has. That's brilliant work from the number 10, who has moved up 9 spots in this race. They dispatch of the lap traffic once again with 3 laps to go. It is John Olsen in 3rd, and up for the race lead. It is as close as it can get. It's 1.5 tenths of a second. I think Togo might pull the trigger on this lap as you got 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th driving through the Essen section now and looking to get to the rise side by side. For the race lead, Nieva goes defensive. Togo's going to have to go around the outside. Moves all the way to the outside. Later on the brakes as well. But Nieva's trying to find a way through and losing out on the dirty side of the circuit. Togo Hosada shot it too deep.
Oh, man, I really thought he had the pass done, but you're right, just barely got out onto the dirty part of the racetrack, and you saw once he was out there, there was just no grip whatsoever to maintain that line. Had to give the lead back up to Jorge.
Well, that's the first real shot that Togo Hosada has taken, and he realizes he's got a 4-second gap, so he can now take those opportunities, but it will take him a little while now with the gap back out to 3 3/4 tenths of a second to close it up, or he can send it deep into the corner and gain a 1/10 of a second that way with some brave defense or aggressive driving. Now searches to the outside of the off-camber corner, trying to pivot off and diamond off the corner on the exit. He's really trying to put Jorge Nieva through the ringer, and I tell you what, Nieva's screaming more.
Hey, you know, and I really feel like Togo has a lot more speed. If he's able to get by Nieva, he's going to take off, but Nieva's kind of the immovable rock right now, doing everything perfectly, hitting his marks, not blowing any apexes, just putting it all together.
Gorilla Monsoon once said it's the unstoppable force that meets the immovable object. And that's what we've got here with Nieva and Hysada. The unstoppable force, Togo Hysada, the immovable object, Jorge Nieva, up the hill and a bit of understeer there. Hysada now, yes, trouble in the background. It's issues there, it's Olsen, it's Claridge, it's everyone.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Mick Claridge and John Olsen, this was going into turn 2, going up the S's. This was the podium fight.
And it means now that Xavier Sanchez is there, and it's all John Olsen. Olsen just gets heavy over the curb, has to lift out of it, and Mick Claridge never saw it coming.
Oh, just so unfortunate. Yeah, you're right. John Olsen just took a really wide line going into turn 2. I'm not sure if he had to get off the gas or what, but Mick Claridge straight into the gearbox.
Straight, and Neva's out! Neva's out! Race leader out! And it's with Togo Hysada!
Oh no, this happened in the boot going down. Jake, you called it in this section. This was down the chute.
Top 2 in trouble. We'll get a replay of this. The race completely changes on a paradigm. Down the hill, trying to make something of this race, and it is Togo Hysada overcooking the corner, and all of a sudden, you watch, you wait, top 2 in the race, bang! There's the hit that goes through. Xavier Sanchez now leads after starting 10th on the grid. Last lap through, he started 5th. He now leads with a lap to go, and now looks like to take the title lead, unless Hysada has it, or are they as they start the last lap?
Oh, 1 lap to go to settle it out here. Xavier Sanchez versus Ove Trengrade. Who's going to win this draft battle?
Xavier Sanchez, this would be the win of any season he has ever had if he can get this sorted. He knows how important these points are, but Ove Trengrade, the classic specialist, on his rear is going to try and make something happen of it. Here comes the drive then towards the chute, and he's got this all sorted. Carousel first, as close as you want, Hervé. You're going to have to get some drive off the exit here because Xavier Sanchez is on rails through this section and down the hill towards the chute. Trengrade's not going to find it, but there are still opportunities on this circuit. The heel of the boot seems to be the prime place if you can't get it done. It's about set up now here at the toe. Does he have enough momentum to drive back up the hill? Xavier Sanchez does okay, but Hervé Trengrade matches him toe for toe, pace for pace, motion for motion at 0.2 of a second. A half defense from Sanchez now, heading in towards the heel of the boot and back up the hill. Turn 9 awaits. All of the road being used by Hervé. He wants to try and find the magic, and if it's not here at 9, you look at 10, you look at 11. There are chances still yet if you want to get this done. Xavier Sanchez holding on. High key 360 EF. Big kick of oversteer. Fighting the wheel goes Hervé Trengrade. That might be that in terms of how it goes. Xavier Sanchez with a win of the ages. He takes it at Watkins Glen.
Sanchez with an amazing drive. Trengrade with the pressure all of the way. Looks like Togo Hysada is actually going to limp that wounded car home to finish in the final podium spot of 3rd.
And he will feel that there are points left on the table tonight, or today. Well, it's tonight for him, it's today for us, in terms of here at Watkins Glen, and it has thrown the championship open even more in terms of where they stack. And with Suzuka a week away, Joey, oh, that's incredible.
Well, yeah, these Lotus 49 championships, there's always some new faces coming up to them as we watch the rest of the field still able to complete the race here. I believe this is Derek Matthews back in the 21st position. Right in front of him, technically, is Jorge Nieva. And I'm wondering, is Jorge actually going to score some points here in the number 9? I see him out on the racetrack, but yeah, there he goes. He's actually going to finish this one, albeit a little bit further down than where he thought.
20th position is not what Jorge Nieva wanted, but he will take a few points in the back pocket, and that will help him out in terms of his second of the drop rounds. We're going to take this moment, though, to step aside for just 1 second here with the Global Sim Racing channel. Post-race coverage is coming to you from Watkins Glen after this. If you start 10th on the grid, you convert maybe 1 in every 100 races towards a race victory. That is just how it goes. And for Xavier Sanchez here today, his 33 minutes and 35 seconds worth of racing was simply that. Absolutely sensational. He holds on to beat Hervé Trengere to the line with Togo Hesada fighting for the lead for almost the entirety of the race. His contact with Jorge Nieva leaves points on the table and drops him down the order there into third. Neil Kemp ends up in fourth position with Gary Ho fifth. Marco Antonio Lopez continues his consistency in the championship, a sixth place finish. Good for him to get out of Dodge. Jack David Spickett will finish off in 7th, I should say, with a start all the way back in 19th position, with Matthew Maudsley in 8th, David Rossi in 9th position, and Jason Clapper rounding out the top 10.
And remember, Jason Clapper, he was our biggest mover, up 22 to finish inside the top 10. Robert Plumley finishes in 11th place. Kyle Ridley, 12th. Cam Porter, 13th. That's a great run for Cam, up 7 positions himself. Also a great run for Emerson Gowden back here, up 10 into 14th. Michael Grissinger, 15th. Shady Ahmad up 18 to finish 16th. Kirk Clapper up 16. Some huge movers here inside the middle of the field. Bjorn Ackerman, 18th. Terry Tromshauser in 19th. And Jorge Nieva, unfortunately, in 20th.
And that includes then some more drivers that go through. These will be the last of the drivers on the lead lap. Derek Matthews, Jonathan Jourdain, Johnny Bell, and Christo Chinmay, 23rd and 24th. Jan Stefan is 25th ahead of Markel Mendoza. Oscar Plata, the last driver on the lead lap. And now you hit retirees. And if you look down the list, there are some big names who are in trouble here today. John Olsen and Mick Claridge, the first two. Jeff Saunders as well, found out just how difficult it was.
Yes, and there's a few more that actually finished the race here. It looks like Connor Babel, unfortunately, DNF, but Steve Morris finished, Mats Linden, as well as Chris Barnes took the checkered flag. The rest that you see here on the screen, DNFs.
Yeah, and all the way down to Nacho Gaspar, his troubles on the opening lap of the race. Let's take this moment, though, to break down what happened at the front of the field. It was absolutely incredible racing that went through, but Togo Hesada trying to get himself through on Jorge Nieva, he just overcooked it. It's as simple as that. Went for the gap and then just found himself squeezed trying to keep himself going through.
It's a shame because these were the two that provided us the battle all race long, and you had called it earlier in the race. You thought it was going to come down the chute. Well, this is exactly where the move went, and maybe a little bit too aggressive here from Togo. I thought that Jorge left him enough room, but unfortunately loses the back end and into his competitor.
Yeah, and the troubles there very much showed. We have the opportunity, though, to talk to him right now. Togo Hesada here in the commentary box with us. Togo, third place, not quite what you wanted, seeing that you were up there fighting for the win. But we have to talk about what happened with a couple of laps to go. I don't think that was quite planned from you in terms of an overtake. Talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, at first, I'm massively sorry for the Jorge Nieva. He's really great driving today. The left me the room every time. It's really fair battle, but I learned everything at the corner. I didn't want to make the move. Just missing the breaking point a little bit, but the 15 down is too aggressive, so down to second gear too fast too early, so then the later is locking up, then the loss of control, and he watching me in the mirror, so he just avoid me, but it's not enough. I'm completely lost control and destroyed his race, so this 100% my childish move, my fault, so really sorry for the Jorge.
You came into today on top of the championship in terms of what you were looking for by what was 21 points. You come out of today and that gap now is down to 8 points in the championship. So as you look today, 9 points your gap heading to Suzuka, your home race. what's the thought process now in terms of putting Watkins Glen as a memory behind you and moving forward into the last third of the championship?
Yeah, I unfortunately I can't. I think I will not. I will not be able to find the time in the Detroit round. I think so. The Suzuka round is my home track and my favorite track. So I must win make some points. Next week. So yeah, just prepare under fighting for the. I really want to win the championship. Just think how. Yeah.
So thinking about the championship, how much you want to win it. Well, the floor is yours because you did manage to find a podium. Is there anybody you'd like to thank, Togo?
Yeah, that was my family, my father, and Lotus 49 communities and the GSRC broadcast stuff is awesome broadcast every week. So thanks very much. And my grandfather.
No worries at all. Arigato, Togo. They're joining us and finding a third place finish through the end of that result, Joey. Not quite what he was hoping for. We have a chance to talk to the man with the checkered flag on his car all over. Cam Porter there joining us, finishing off in what was a strong position here today, 13th.
Yeah, Cam, congratulations on that 13th place. I saw you were actually up a couple more there, but lost it in the final couple laps, unfortunately. How did you think today went for you?
It went really well. That was a really thrilling race, especially near the end there. Unfortunately, we got to stop meeting like this because I feel like recently, every time I've been racing Lotus 49, Lotus 79, I seem to throw it away in the second last lap, doing something, backing it into a corner or something. But yeah, today I just money shifted down to first gear by mistake, going into the heel of the boot, fighting with Robert Plumley and Jason Clapper. They were putting on a good show with me, so thanks a lot to those guys for a thrilling race today. But yeah, just lost the back end and lost a couple of positions because of it, but still a successful race for me today.
I was noticing, yeah, you and Robert Plumley were really duking it out there for a handful of laps. How exciting was that battle? It seemed like you guys went back and forth a few times.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, I think he was had a little more pace than I did. He caught up to me, eventually passed me, but then made a mistake going into the boot, and I got back by him again. And then Jason Clapper came in, and we were sort of mixing it up. That was really thrilling, really fun race today. So thanks, guys.
Well, before we let you go, we love the shirt that you got on, Cam. Is there anybody you want to say hi to?
I just want to shout out GSRC for putting on a great broadcast every week. Make sure you check out their store to buy some merchandise.
Well, that was the best plug I've ever heard here on the interviews. Cam Porter coming home 13th today.
GSRC.storenvy.com. If you want your GSRC merch, that is the place to go and get it. But that is going to put our proceedings then to an end here today. Want to give a massive thanks to everyone who's been here, from Eddie, from Joey, and from Dougie. This is all of the special software and equipment that we use, and the music, of course, from June Lalonde. You can catch her stuff on Bandcamp, and that is incredible when you get to listen to her stuff on the beginning and end of all of these broadcasts. On top of that, we've got some amazing racing coming up on the horizon. For example, the Majors is going to be there, but next week it's Suzuka. It is a huge race. It's a home race for Togo Hosada. It means the world to him. He wants that result and he wants that title by the end of the season. Make sure you check that out, and the next broadcast that the Global Sim Racing Channel is going to be doing, because that will be tomorrow, and that will be at around 11:30 Eastern, 12:30 Eastern potentially, and that will be over at Motorland Aragon for amazing racing action in your Lotus 79 series. So make sure you check that out. But until next time, with a championship now poised and closer than ever, a legendary win for Javier Sanchez. Race clean, race hard, and we will see you in Mie Prefecture, Japan.